from me and eat all. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. So subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. So yes, if you didn't already know, I'm an asexual who is personally sex repulsed. I don't like sex and nudity in movies, and I like to try and find movies with no sex and no nudity in them. But warning, Logan does have nudity in it. And that's what I'm going to be reviewing in this chat show. So, yes, Logan is a 2017 movie, and I've actually seen Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024 this year before I saw the Logan movie. So, the Logan movie is the last movie in the trilogy of the Wolverine series and the last of Wolverine as we knew it. So, yes, spoiler alert, if you didn't already know what's happening in Logan, the 2017 movie, I am going to reveal it to you. Plus, I'll be telling you a bit about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, which I've already reviewed. So, that sounds like something you're interested in. Let's get stuck in. So Logan, like I said, is set in 2017, and Logan, aka Wolverine, is trying to blend in, I guess, and he doesn't want to be attracting attention to himself. He's working as a limousine driver, and he's looking after a very elderly Charles Xavier, who's 97 in the movie, and also a mutant tracker is living with him. So Wolverine, Logan, and the tracker are living in the main part of a house, and then there's like this it's like an abandoned type of place, I believe. It's got a technical name for it, but so they're living. All right, so Charles Xavier, I'm just looking at Wikipedia, is in an abandoned smelting plant. I don't know what a smelting plant is, but anyway, they're all in this place together, and it's pretty much desolate. And so Wolverine Logan has this job as a limousine driver, and this is when the nudity comes into it, because he is taking a lot of young guys and girls in the limousine who go clubbing, out to parties and stuff like this. And in one part of the movie, there's a girl, because there's like 4 or 5 girls in the back of his limousine, and this girl that lifts her top up and shows her whole boobs. I don't know if you saw that bit of the movie, but it does happen. And then she puts the top further down, so it's only showing part of her boobs, but she does show all her breasts. So I personally don't think there was a need for that in the movie, but that's what a lot of people like, isn't it? Nudity and breasts. So there we go. That is part of the movie. And so the whole point is Logan's trying to keep a low profile by being a limousine driver and looking after Charles Xavier. He wants to like save Charles Xavier, but he keeps injecting Charles Xavier with a drug to stop his seizures, because what's happened is the government, I think it is the US government, has basically declared Xavier's mind as a weapon of mass destruction, because he keeps having destructive telepathic seizures, and one injured 600 people and killed several of the X-Men, but he doesn't actually remember what happened before with the X-Men. He's like got a problem with his mind where he doesn't remember because he's got dementia, basically. And so these seizures come on and everyone freezes. So Logan keeps injecting Xavier with a drug to stop the seizures. But it's kind of like really weird seeing this, because it really feels like Logan's abusing Xavier, in the sense that he's keeping him captive away from everyone, but he's saying it's for Xavier's own good. So I don't know how you feel about that as a viewer. Personally, for me, I find it difficult to see scenes like that, because it's kind of immoral in a way, because it is like Xavier is being drugged by Logan, and Logan's got control of him in that way. But then I understand that Xavier has the power to kill people with his seizures and injure lots of people. And obviously the government, if they find him, would want to kill him because he's seen as a weapon of mass destruction with his mind. So Logan says he's doing it for his own good, but I found those scenes quite distressing and hard to look at, because I'm like, you're just drugging him and getting him to shut up and being a former version of what he was before, rather than being his authentic self. But obviously his authentic self is mass destruction, so it's no good. And I haven't seen all the I don't remember seeing. I've seen some of the X-Men films, but I haven't seen all of them. So when Wolverine was saying, you know, there was a lot of basically a lot of the X-Men have gone now, and a large part of the fault was actually Xavier's. I don't think I saw all that part of the movie or that particular movie episode when that happened, because I don't remember them all being wiped out like that. So I think, again, I must have missed another movie, but I don't have to watch them in succession, and I haven't seen all of them. Hence why I saw Logan tonight on Disney Plus when I hadn't seen it before I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. So I saw Deadpool and Wolverine this year before I've seen Logan, and Logan's a film before Deadpool and Wolverine. But because I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and I saw a scene in Deadpool and Wolverine where Wolverine, spoiler alert, is brought back to life from the multiverse and he's with Laura, but you see a flashback of his death in a previous movie. I then wanted to find the movie that his death was from, because I hadn't seen it, which was why I watched the Logan movie, which is, spoiler alert, what happens in the end of the Logan movie. So I've just told you the ending before I've told you the rest of it. But basically, Logan, the tracker, the mutant tracker, and Xavier are all together in an abandoned place. And then all of a sudden, when Logan is at a funeral, taking these people in a limousine to the funeral, there's this woman that's coming up. I think she's Spanish, and she speaks Spanish. So she's basically, you don't know who she is at this point, but she's saying about she needs his help, needs Logan's help. Logan won't listen, and eventually this woman hires him as a person to take her and her supposed daughter to the border in his limousine. But you find out during the course of this time what's actually going on. So Laura, you find out throughout the film, because the woman that looks after Laura is not her real biological mother. And you find out that the woman that tried to get Logan's help, who is called Gabriela Lopez, she was a former nurse at a biotechnological company called Transigen. And Gabriella wants Logan to take them to the place called Eden, which is supposed to be a refuge near the American-Canadian border. And then Logan finally agrees to do it, and he's not there at the time, and he goes to pick Gabrielle up with Laura, and instead Gabrielle is dead, and then Logan is confronted with her killer called Donald Pierce, who is Transient's cyborg chief of security, basically. So Pierce is looking for Laura, but Pierce makes out that Laura is his actual child, like it's his daughter. And what's happened is, you find out in the movie, Xavier's been seeing these like visions and of mutants. And because there's been no mutants born in, like, I think it's like 25 years, then Wolverine doesn't agree to it. Like, Wolverine tried to shut Xavier down, saying there are no more mutants. You know, you've got that wrong. And the tracker, the mutant tracker who's living with Wolverine, says that he believes it's true what Xavier's saying, and Wolverine doesn't want any of it. Anyway, when Gabriella's dead and Pierce is after Logan, and what happens is Logan decides to leave the girl there called Laura, which was meant to be Gabriella's daughter. And Logan gets in the car, puts Xavier in the car and says, this isn't our problem. And Xavier's like, Laura, we can't leave Laura. We can't leave Laura. Anyway, they go to leave Laura. And then these men go after Laura. And then you hear like this gunfire and a commotion. And then Laura comes out, and she comes out with, like metal fingers, which are metal claws, I should say, like Wolverine. Only she's got them on her feet as well. So she is basically like a mini Wolverine, but she is lethal. She's like a lethal weapon. And she is savage. And so Laura basically goes around killing these. She brings a dead head out, drops it on the floor, and is basically ready for a fight. So she's fighting all these people off. And then Logan realizes that Xavier was right, because Xavier says, that's a mutant I was telling you about. So then Logan, gets Laura in the vehicle they've got at the time. And then Xavier and Logan and Laura are all on the run from Pierce, basically. And Pierce has got a whole army behind him of people. And Pierce has actually captured the tracker mutant and is using the tracker mutant, basically using him to track Logan and Laura and Xavier's whereabouts throughout the rest of the movie. But they're torturing him because the tracker mutant, he's not good with sunlight. He's like an albino, and if he gets the sunlight on him, he goes all bloodshot. His face starts to go, red, and he's exposed to sunlight, which basically is like killing him off and torturing him. So it's pretty horrible. And anyway, so you find out throughout the movie, because Wolverine Logan took the phone. There's a phone where Gabriella gave Logan originally £20,000 to get Laura to safety, to the border, to go to Eden, which is supposed to be a refuge. And Logan took the mobile phone out, which was a red phone, and Logan starts playing it in the car, and then he finds out what's been going on. That basically Gabriella worked for this biotechnological place, which is called Transient, I think I said. Yeah, so he gets, Transigen. Yeah, I had to look that up on Wikipedia. I can't remember. Transigen. So basically, Transigen is a biotechnological lab, and Logan discovers that they've been making these mutant children from mutant DNA, but they're making these mutant children as weapons of mass destruction. So they're breeding them and growing them to specifically perform certain functions of mass destruction. But in the end, the children become self-aware, as I see it, and they start, Laura, when you see what happened to Laura when she was cut open and the skin and stuff, you see Laura trying to cut her own skin, and you see a lot of the other children who are mutants running around riot, and basically I think they've just got their own mind, and so they can't control them anymore, so they decide to try and execute them. And Gabriella was one of the nurses that actually got Laura and some of the other mutants to safety and helped them to escape so they could still live without being executed. And so Laura doesn't actually belong to Pierce. Although she belongs to Pierce in the sense that he works for the organization that made her, but actually you find out Laura has got the mutant DNA of Logan, aka Wolverine. So in effect, by DNA, she is his daughter. And so he's got this mutant daughter, which is why she's got powers like him. And so throughout the movie, you see that he's not really bothered about her a lot of the time. Like he's really wanting the peaceful, quiet life. He doesn't want to be disturbed. He doesn't want to get involved in stuff. And Xavier can see that, like, where's his heart? You know, Logan's always had a heart. He's always had this soft spot inside him. And in this movie, it's quite dark. And Xavier's like basically before something happens to Xavier, then Xavier's like, what happened to you, Logan? You've got, like, you know, your heart, basically. And so, because what happens is Laura, Xavier, and Logan, they see this family who's got horses that are running across the motorway. They've gone out of their, like, horse cart. Is that the right word to use? Horse cab car, whatever. You know, they have those on the back of a car. They have the thing that horses are in. Anyway, I don't actually know the technical name for it, but anyway, they escape and start going across the motorway. So Logan, Xavier, and Laura go to their aid, and then the farmer, because it's a farmer, and his wife and kid all then decide to host Xavier and Logan and Laura in their home. So they have a meal, and then what happens is the farmer, so the head of the household, he has the water cut off, and he needs that for the crops to grow to make a living, as well as needing water. The water got cut off or something. There's something went wrong with the water. He said it's been cut off or something like that. Anyway, he goes to try and find out what's happened with Logan, and he cuts through this these it's like a place where the pipes are, where he gets his water from, but the pipes are basically sprouting water instead of letting the water go through the pipes. So it's got a break in the pipe system, but he's like trespassing on private property, and he's cutting through the chains that are holding the doors together with, like, chain cutters. So it's very difficult at this point because the people who own the property then turn up. But the farmer's saying he made a deal with a previous property owner and he has rights to that and access to it. And Logan and him actually just fix the pipes before the people turn up and said they're trespassing. And then that's when Wolverine breaks his gun in order to leave and tells him to leave the farmer alone, basically, in order to get him to leave the farmer alone, tells him to leave the farmer alone. So then they go to head back home, and unfortunately Pierce has got to the home because he's used the mutant tracker, because I told you Pierce has been, like, torturing the tracker, and the tracker has led Pierce and his team to where Wolverine is staying with Charles Xavier and Laura. And it's really difficult because they kill Charles Xavier off in this movie. I was quite surprised about that, you know, but he was getting old in the movie. But yeah, so, and what happens is it's not just anyone that kills him, it's X-24, which is a clone that's been made in the laboratory of Logan, aka Wolverine himself, but a modern, young, fit version of him. So Logan in this movie is actually dying. I didn't tell you that. But you find out throughout the movie he's dying because his skeleton that's made of a metal is actually killing him. An alloy metal is killing him. So in this movie, you see Wolverine getting older looking and paler and grayer looking and dying. And that's why he kept taking medication. But in the end, he doesn't end up having much medication because, you know, he's having to leave. He was doing a deal with a guy at the hospital to get medication for Xavier, but I believe he was getting medication for himself as well to keep himself going, I think. And so he couldn't get that anymore because obviously he's had to move with Xavier and Laura. But yeah, when Wolverine, aka Logan, gets back with the farmer, Pierce has been there and killed the farmer's wife, killed the farmer's son, and then unleashes X-24 to try and kill Wolverine. So it's basically X-24 is the modern version of Wolverine. It's a clone of Wolverine. So it's like him trying to kill himself. So that was quite interesting. I didn't know that was going to happen. I never expected that to happen. And you find out Laura is called X-23 because Laura's got DNA of Wolverine. But it's really crazy. I didn't know there was going to be 2 Wolverines. And I was like looking, thinking what's happened. And so Xavier was killed by X-24, but it wasn't immediate death. So the real Wolverine got Xavier and took him outside and said, it wasn't me who did that. It wasn't me who did that. But before Xavier dies, Xavier said he had the perfect night's sleep and he did actually remember what happened with the X-Men that he killed. A number of them. But in terms of sleeping well before then, he had a perfect night's sleep because he was surrounded by people who loved him. And he had a family with Laura and Wolverine and felt loved with all of them. And that's what life is about. And that's what he was saying to Wolverine, remember this moment, because that's what true life is about. That's what love is about. That's what life is all about. Being with someone who you can call your family and you feel loved by them. And then you feel rested and in peace and happy. That is true of real life, really. Being around friends that you can call family, being around family, being around people, whoever you choose to have as your family, whether you're adopted or, some people don't have like one or more of their parents, or some people are adopted, some people live in a broken house or old or whatever. So, family are not necessarily the people who are just your birth family. Family can be friends that really deeply care and love you. And so friends are the family you choose for yourself, really. So one of my friends, she's actually adopted. And she always said to me that family is like the friends you choose for yourself. So I think that's a very wise thing to say, really. And yeah, I think that's an important point, because a lot of asexuals might feel left out in their family system, but if they've got other asexuals or supportive allies around them, then they can kind of feel maybe that they're more like a family than the people. My parents accept my asexuality, so I'm quite fortunate like that, but I don't think they totally understand it, but they accept it. But, it's hard, isn't it, if people don't understand it? So friends are the family we choose for ourselves. Anyway, getting back to the movie. So Xavier dies, and then it's Logan and basically Laura. And the tracker has led Pierce to Logan and Laura in the end. So Laura and Logan have gone off, and Laura is begging Logan to take her to Eden. But Logan's found, partway through the movie before this, Logan found some X-Men actual comics. So it's really weird seeing X-Men comics in the Wolverine Logan movie. It's like he's, it's himself basically in a comic in the actual movie itself, which I thought this was just ingenious. It's like really weird. I think it's so fascinating when they do stuff like that. Like they bring in, oh, something's going in my eye. They bring like Logan, another version of Wolverine to kill himself. And they bring actually X-Men comics into the actual movie itself. I think that's quite interesting. Anyway, he said the Garden of Eden doesn't exist at these coordinates for this Eden place. Did I call it a Garden of Eden? Well, anyway, Eden it's called in the comics. He said this doesn't exist, it's just fictional. Anyway, Laura tries to tell him is trying to say there's other mutants, but a lot of the time she's speaking Spanish. But it was weird because towards the end of the movie, she started speaking English as well as Spanish. So I didn't really get that. I'm like, what I mean? She's pretending she can't speak English the whole time. Then all of a sudden she's speaking it and very quite clear English. So that was a bit confusing. That was not very good continuity, if I'm to make a criticism of the movie. And so anyway, throughout most of the movie, she doesn't even talk to Logan. She talks in Spanish to Xavier, but when Logan's around, she doesn't speak English until the very, very end. And then she starts calling him dad, but in the end, father. But what happens is Laura's saying that there are other mutants. She's trying to tell Logan that Eden does exist. She's got to get them across the border. So anyway, Logan passes out because he's very ill. He's dying. He passes out, but she can drive, even though she's a mutant. She can drive. So she drives him, and he wakes up in this bed, which is like a hospital bed, and you find out that it's actually in a doctor's room, like it's one of those like walk-in centers, like a walk-in care center or something like that, for emergency walk-in care center, something like that's called. So it's like a walk-in center in the UK, right? But it's not in the UK. But it's that type of thing. You just walk in and it's critical aid. But so he's hooked up to a machine. The doctor says, I realize that you're different to others, but please let me help you. You know, something that's killing you inside. Let's find out what it is. And Logan's like, I know what it is. And I can't wait around. I've got no time. And takes all the cords off. And anyway, he says to Laura, I don't know how you got me in there, but thank you for that. So anyway, she then insists that they go and find the other mutants. They go and find Eden. So he doesn't listen to her. He doesn't want to know. And then he gives in to her. So he does head for this place. But then she takes over driving. And then she gets out the car like he's asleep. And you see her further up like these mountain places. And he looks over. She's waving for him to come over. And he literally falls on the floor. He's passed out because he's dying. You know, he's very sick. And it's like a big treehouse type place on top of the mountains, and they get him on a stretcher and they haul him up, and all the mutant children are there that survived the biotechnological place that Gabrielle got. I think it was more than just Gabriella. It was some other people as well. But basically, they got these mutant children to safety, and they've been hiding out here in like a safe house place. But it's like a tree. It looks like a massive tree house on these mountains. And they've got a stretcher for Logan, and then they're hauling him up on rope. And anyway, he's with them for a little while, and they give him some of this stuff to inject him to heal him. But he says this stuff kills you, and they said only if you take a lot of it, because if you just take it in small doses, then it helps you to heal. And they got that from the biotechnological lab before they left. But you hear someone over like the radio, like a radio system, tell one of the children the coordinates for getting them across the border. So there must be someone else, somewhere else, that's talking to them. And I don't know if anyone is listening in on that shouldn't be a bad person or what, but basically that's what you hear. So that's really weird. I don't know if they're going to follow up that thread in another future movie or if that's just going to be it. But I found that a bit suspicious. I'm like, well, who's actually given these coordinates to them? Is there a mutant on the other side of that? You know, it's meant to get them to safety, but what if there's been no mutants born in 25 years and a lot of the X-Men are dead? Or, you know, where are the rest of the X-Men? Do you know what I mean? Then who is the one over the border? So the mind boggles, doesn't it? Anyway, so the children and Logan stays there. Logan says that basically he's dropped Laura off now to these mutant kids. That's all he's had to do. And he's trying to tell Laura that that's it, because everyone he loves, something ends up some harm ends up coming to the ones he loves. So he's basically saying that if he ends up loving her like a daughter, she's going to get hurt, and therefore he doesn't want to get involved. He's emotionally cut off a lot of the time, this Logan. But Laura's like, oh, well, that's fine then, because, nothing's going to happen to me then, basically, because she's saying that he doesn't care about her, because he's just letting her go to her fate or whatever's going to happen to her. So anyway, with that in mind, Laura and the other mutant children get up at the crack of dawn. They go. Logan's there on his own, and the children have gone and they've gone to try to cross the border by themselves. And then Pierce has used a tracker to find them. And Logan uses these big, like, binoculars. It's like a massive telescope, but a pair of binoculars, like a telescope binoculars. I don't know what the technical name for it is. And he sees Pierce and the people, like his army, coming after them. There is also this guy who worked in the lab as well that's got involved at this point. But anyway, they're all going after the mutant children and they're all trying to capture them in this, like, forest place as they're going to try to get across the border. Logan takes pretty much all of the I was going to say lotion, but chemical stuff, all of the serum, that's it, a word I'm looking for. All of the serum they were using to make him heal, but if you have it in a huge dose, it kills you. So he took this serum to make himself stronger, because otherwise he's very weak and dying, to make himself stronger so that he could try and save as many of the mutants as possible and mutant children as possible and Laura. So he goes in the forest and then he slashes quite a few people, but then the serum starts to wear off because apparently Pierce says the older you get, the quicker it wears off. And they know this. And so the children use their powers to try and kill Pierce after the tracker mutant has blown himself up with grenades in the back of a vehicle, which they were, like, torturing him in. Well, they'd already tortured him with the sunlight, but they were using him in the back of, like, this vehicle and shutting him in this cage, and then if he didn't comply they would torture him again. So basically they were torturing him in order to get him to comply, to track Laura and the mutants. So he actually led Pierce to Laura and Logan, and he was really, like, sorry about that because he didn't, he took Pierce's word that no harm or something would come to them, or I can't remember what the bargaining thing was. Anyway, he blew himself up with hand grenades and blew the whole vehicle up, but unfortunately Pierce escaped. So Pierce comes after Logan, and Laura and Logan are fighting. Both of them are fighting with their scissor type hands and killing loads of them off, and the other mutants are trying to get Pierce, and they wrap him in this like twine, which is like from trees, because one of the mutant children can control, like, the leaves and branches on trees and get the branches to wrap around the body to basically strangle the person and squeeze the person so hard. And the others were using their powers to freeze parts of him, I think, as well, and do all weird and wonderful stuff. They're all using their powers together to basically kill him. And then what happens is X-24 is released, and X-24 is the clone of Wolverine Logan, and spoiler alert, he comes after Wolverine Logan full blast, and they have these fight scenes. But by this time Wolverine, aka Logan, is getting so old and the serum's pretty much worn off and he can't take much more, he's dying, and X-24 puts him through, like, the branch of a tree or something and puts it straight through his body, so he's dying. And Laura gets a gun and puts this bullet, which is made from the stuff that is killing Logan, through X-24's head. And so Logan at this point is still alive but dying, and Laura calls him father, and she watches him die, and then she has to bury him, and all the mutant children go off to go across the border. And that's pretty much where it ends. So I've seen Deadpool and Wolverine, so I knew that Wolverine had died, but I didn't know how he died. And in Deadpool and Wolverine, Wolverine is brought back to life from the multiverse, and the version that's brought back to life of him, after going through multiple versions, Deadpool, like, goes through all these different time time variance and chooses the Logan, who is a drunk and who doesn't care and give a shit about anything. So it's very much this Logan that gets chosen before he dies. But he's dead in the movie. So with Deadpool and Wolverine, you see Deadpool actually digging up Wolverine's body, thinking Wolverine can't die. But you do see Wolverine's skeleton, which is very much dead. And then Deadpool uses Wolverine's dead body, skeleton, like the fingers and stuff, to actually go around killing people. It's a very interesting graphic scene. You could say that it's very, very good in terms of cinematography. The way Deadpool's dug up Wolverine's body and used his skeleton parts to kill off the people that's come after Deadpool, basically. So Deadpool goes back in time in the multiverse and sees lots of different versions of Wolverine, has to pick one to help him in the present day save his own family and the people he loves. And so it's basically like a woman he loves and friends that's like his family, Deadpool's family, the people he cares about. So yeah, in Deadpool and Wolverine, he finds a version of Wolverine that's basically like this version, but not dead. When he goes back in time, he finds a drunk version of Logan, aka Wolverine, who couldn't give a shit. But he's not actually dying in this version, because in the Deadpool universe, Deadpool doesn't believe that Wolverine can die. But he does find him dead. And he digs his body up where the last film left off, Logan film left off. However, in the Logan movie, the body is buried in front of like this lake, I noticed. And I'm not sure in Deadpool and Wolverine if the body is still in front of a lake. Because I think Deadpool's dug up the body at a different angle. I think Deadpool's dug up the body this way, facing the trees, because behind the body, when Deadpool pulls the body, gets the skeleton up, basically, he's fighting the men behind where the hole is of the body. But I don't remember seeing in Deadpool and Wolverine the lake near the hole where the body was from. So either the cameras, who's filming it, has done the opposite side, the furthest away side from the side we see in the movie, or they've chosen a different place to dig up the body and they haven't done the same continuity because there's not a lake there. So I'd be interested to know, if you're a film fanatic, did you notice that yourself? And was there a lake in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie behind where the body was dug up? Because there's definitely a lake in this video, in this movie that I've seen today. There's definitely a lake there. So, but, again, you can't see what proximity the lake is to the mound of rubble where the body is. At the end of the movie as well, I should say that Laura takes a cross and puts it as an X for X-Men. So I like that finishing touch. But I'm glad that I knew that Logan was going to die in this movie, so I wasn't disappointed, in the sense that I wouldn't have got too upset now, because I already know that he comes back to life in Deadpool and Wolverine. But if I didn't know that, then I would have probably been quite upset that they killed the character off, because I thought, well, how can he get old and die? I don't think Wolverine's capable of doing that. And seeing him an old man and dying in that way just seemed really weird. But I know they were saying that his skeleton was the thing that, all his hands and everything, all his metal components, was actually killing him. And I understood that from the Iron Man, that it was Iron Man's parts in his heart that were killing him at one point. I can't wait for Iron Man to come back. I'm like, when are you going to bring Iron Man back with the time stone or something? You know what I mean? There's a little tiny fly now. You know, when are you going to bring Iron Man back with a time stone from another multiverse? Do you know what I mean? Like, you could either just bring him back from another multiverse, probably, or use a time stone to bring him back. You could bring as many characters back as you want. I'm sure a lot of them will come back eventually, because why wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean? But apparently, Deadpool and Wolverine are now joining the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that's going to be a bit weird because I don't like Deadpool at all. I can't stand Deadpool really. But Deadpool and Wolverine was okay. It was tolerable, but it was very bloodthirsty. You know, I don't really like Deadpool, but Deadpool and Wolverine was better than Deadpool #1 because I've seen Deadpool #1. I hated it because it had so much nudity and sex stuff in it and violence and gratuitous violence and swearing, and it just really put me off the character. I didn't like him, and so I didn't watch Deadpool 2, and then I have seen Deadpool and Wolverine, which was hardcore because of all the really strong violence in it. There's a lot of violence in this one, especially from the little girl, which I guess people get quite shocked about. Oh my god, they're putting a little girl with, you know, the same type of skeleton that Wolverine's got, but a modern version. And I don't understand though, because Laura is X-23 and the clone of Wolverine is X-24. So she came before the clone, so she's a little bit older, I guess, than the clone of Wolverine. She's like a slightly older model, I'm guessing, because I'm guessing X-23 came before X-24. But Hugh Jackman's playing both X-24, the younger clone version of Wolverine, and Wolverine. So he's playing a double part. So it is him playing both parts. I did check that in the credits. So anyway, yeah, that's Logan. And I'm glad they brought him back to life for Wolverine and Deadpool. I think it's very strange how they did that. But I think it's good that they actually showed that, yes, he's still dead in that timeline that he died. But, you know, he can still be alive in other multiverses and other timelines. And that's how he came back to life in Deadpool and Wolverine. But Deadpool's like, you do die in the future. You die in, you know, you die in that future, in that timeline. So yeah. Anyway, what did you think of the movie? Have you seen Logan? What did you think of it? Have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine now? What did you think of it? Was there a lake near the body of Logan in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, like there was actually in the Logan movie? Who is your favorite X-Men character? Did you like X-24? Did you like the fact there was another Wolverine in there, but a clone of Wolverine who was lethal, but it was like a younger version of him? What did you think? What did you think of the mutant children? What did you think of Laura? Laura does come back in X-Men. Oh, sorry. Oh, I don't mean X-Men. I meant in Deadpool and Wolverine, Laura comes back. I was going to say X-Men because I'm sure they're going to make probably some more X-Men stuff in the future. But Laura, I should say, is back for Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, because I think most of the X-Men are meant to be dead, aren't they? But they're always bringing X-Men people back, aren't they? So I'm guessing that the children mutants might come back as the next generation X-Men or something. I don't know. I'm guessing, but I'm guessing they'll probably bring some back to life anyway with multiverse stuff. But anyway, so what I meant to say was though that Laura is back this year in the 2024 movie with Deadpool and Wolverine. She comes back into the movie from his past. So he gets to be with his daughter, his DNA daughter again in the 2024 movie. So he does get to be with her. So I found that interesting. I'm glad I watched Logan now because it made more sense of some of the story of Deadpool and Wolverine. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Love to know what you think. As always, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit the bell icon so you never miss another episode. I'll see you soon in the next video or live stream. I was glad this film didn't have sex in it, but like I said, it did have a nude scene in the limousine. So watch out for that. Anyway, lots of love. Take care. Bye.